power, ego, and unchecked ambition. These are the ingredients for a leader who will stop at nothing to achieve greatness, no matter the cost. Today, we explore the psychology of narcissism in 6 infamous historical figures whose need for control and admiration shaped the course of history. From military geniuses to ruthless dictators, let's uncover the minds of leaders who embodied the darkest traits of narcissism. Number 1. Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte, the self-proclaimed emperor of France, had an ego as grand as the empire he sought to build. His grandiosity was evident in his belief that he was destined to rule the world. Napoleon crowned himself emperor in a dramatic, self-aggrandizing gesture that highlighted his need for control and admiration. He famously manipulated his image through propaganda, positioning himself as both a military genius and a savior of France, reinforcing his narcissistic need for validation. His ruthless ambition and disregard for the well-being of his soldiers and citizens, such as during his failed invasion of Russia, reflect his lack of empathy. When things went wrong, Napoleon refused to accept responsibility, becoming defensive and blaming others, traits consistent with his narcissism. Number 2. Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler's narcissistic tendencies were at the core of his rise to power and the destruction he left in his wake. Fueled by a belief in his supreme destiny, Hitler saw himself as the savior of Germany, destined to lead the Aryan race to global dominance. His grandiosity was displayed in his relentless pursuit of power and his self-image as a messianic figure, leading to the belief that he was above reproach. Hitler's manipulation of others and exploitation of the public's fears and desires reinforced his control over the masses. His lack of empathy for the suffering of millions during the Holocaust and World War II, combined with his refusal to take responsibility for his actions, underscores the darkest side of narcissism, the ability to disregard human life for personal gain. Number 3. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin's reign over the Soviet Union was defined by paranoia, manipulation, and an insatiable need for control. Stalin's narcissistic traits included an overwhelming need for validation, as seen in his cult of personality, where he was presented as an infallible leader, the father of nations. He was ruthless in his pursuit of power, purging anyone he saw as a threat, including friends, allies, and even close family members. His lack of empathy was evident in the millions who suffered through forced labor camps, the Holodomor famine, and mass executions. Stalin's lack of accountability for his actions, combined with his belief that he was always in the right, exemplifies the dangerous consequences of a narcissist in power. Number 4. King Louis XIV. King Louis XIV of France, also known as the Sun King, embodied the height of narcissism and monarchy. His grandiosity was demonstrated in his belief that he was the center of the universe. With his lavish lifestyle and the construction of the magnificent Palace of Versailles, symbolizing both his need for admiration and his desire to control his image. Louis XIV demanded absolute loyalty, suppressing dissent and eliminating any challenges to his authority. His lack of empathy toward the peasants who suffered under his reign is a testament to his narcissism, as he was more concerned with his own legacy than the welfare of his people. His self-centeredness is most apparent in his belief that I am the state, seeing his identity inseparable from France itself. Number 5. Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, one of history's most successful military leaders, was also a prime example of narcissistic behavior. His grandiosity was rooted in his belief that he was a divine figure destined to rule the known world. Alexander's conquest of vast territories and his obsession with spreading his name across the globe was driven by a need for immortality and admiration. His treatment of both allies and enemies reflected his narcissistic disregard for human life. He demanded that people worship him as a god, and his manipulation of others was evident in his use of propaganda to build his cult of personality. Like many narcissistic leaders, Alexander was quick to eliminate those who posed a threat to his ego, leading to both personal betrayal and tragic consequence. Number 6. Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar's narcissistic traits are well documented in history. His grandiosity was reflected in his political and military conquests, culminating in his appointment as dictator for life, a title he took with little concern for the republic he had once been a part of. Caesar's narcissistic manipulation was evident in how he used his charisma and political genius to manipulate the Senate and the people of Rome, consolidating his power. His need for constant admiration led to a cult of personality, where his image was everywhere, and his decisions were seen as infallible. Caesar's lack of empathy for those who opposed him, especially in the case of political rivals, led to the betrayal and assassination that ultimately resulted in the fall of the Roman Republic. His inability to accept criticism or failure is a clear reflection of his narcissism. Narcissism in leadership has often led to both great achievements and devastating downfalls. These leaders, driven by their need for admiration, grandiosity, lack of empathy, and manipulation, all share common traits that not only shaped their personal legacies, but also reshaped history itself. As we look at these figures, we can better understand the psychological cost of unchecked power and the dangers it brings. Which of these leaders do you think had the most dangerous narcissism? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into history's most complex figures.